Hello there, welcome to today's Advective weather video. Today we're going for another update on Cyclone Freddy, which is inching closer to Madagascar. Here are the full details from Meteo France. Currently 10-minute sustained winds of 185 km per hour with a pressure of 948 millibars, making it an intense tropical cyclone on the Meteo France scale. You can see it looking quite impressive on the right hand side with that animated GIF, but it's not as impressive as yesterday. It has weakened somewhat. It's moving fairly consistently to the west at 14 miles an hour or 22 kilometers per hour, and it is 3 to 4 days out from striking Madagascar. Despite its weakening from yesterday, it remains a powerful storm and may well re-strengthen between now and hitting Madagascar, which is not to say it will make landfall in Madagascar near its peak intensity, which was borderline Category 5, or a very intense tropical cyclone, and it may be upgraded to a very intense tropical cyclone in post-analysis. We will have to see. But regardless, it has been a very powerful storm for much of its life, and it looks to remain a significant storm until striking Madagascar, and of course it will weaken moving inland. Here is the Meteo France forecast cone. You can see it remains with winds of at least 165 km per hour all the way until Madagascar in 3 days' time. Now that time's coming forward every hour. It moves 14 miles to the west every hour. It's got a couple hundred miles to go. It will have a near miss with La Reunion, Rodrigues, Maurice. Minimal impacts expected there, but there could be some gusts to gale force and some rain, but the impact's not expected to be significant. It is a fairly compact storm. As you can see by those wind radii, the circles around the storm's current position, not very big. We've seen plenty of bigger storms all over the world. That's one good thing. It means the rainfall when it strikes Madagascar will likely not be as significant as it would be with a larger storm. Now after Madagascar, it will weaken substantially moving over the mountainous island, but it is expected to re-strengthen somewhat in the Mozambique Channel. It seems most likely that it will strike Madagascar at this time, but it is over 5 days out and there is still room for it to move out to sea. We will have to wait for greater confidence in the coming days, but there's no ability to speak on the impacts in Mozambique, other than it will probably be a significant storm if it makes it that far west, will likely produce flooding rain, storm surge, and potentially damaging winds as it comes ashore. But if it makes it to Africa, it will weaken quickly upon moving inland and dissipate somewhere over Zimbabwe, in all likelihood. Now here are the weather models. The European model, as you can see, very small compared to the vastness of the Indian Ocean, but it travels consistently west at a consistent speed and makes landfall in Madagascar roughly at the same strength as it is now. Weakens substantially while crossing the island, but remains a tropical storm, and re-strengthens to near cyclone strength before coming ashore in southern Mozambique. Now the impacts to Madagascar, landfall as an intense tropical cyclone, as you saw from the Meteo France forecast. Substantial wind damage likely in the immediate area where the eye comes on shore. In the eye wall, the area of strongest winds. Flooding rains will happen, but they won't be widespread due to the small nature of this storm. Once it moves over Mozambique, you can see the European model re-strengthens it a bit. 10, 15, 20 millibars maybe, but it's not super strong by the time it comes ashore in Mozambique, and it weakens very rapidly once it makes that final landfall. Now there is still time for it to move out to sea, but it's becoming increasingly unlikely with every model run that keeps it moving into Mozambique. But it wouldn't take that much of a shift at 5 days out for it to move south of Mozambique and recurve near South Africa. We'll have to wait and see. Here is the American GFS model. Now unfortunately, relative to the European model, it struggles to resolve the storm's current intensity. You can see it starts off in the upper 60s and the lower 970s, and Meteo France and the GWC have it around 950 millibars at this time, so it's 20 millibars too weak. However, despite that poor initialization, it maintains the current intensity roughly until it reaches Madagascar. There is a small amount of weakening before it comes on shore while it's still over the ocean, and whether that's the GFS model having problems with the interaction of Madagascar, or it actually thinks the environment will cause the storm to weaken before it makes it to Madagascar, remains to be seen. If the storm was stronger, would it still weaken? We can't tell, so we'll have to wait for greater details again as we get closer to that landfall. Now, the GFS is more aggressive when the storm moves into Mozambique Channel, intensifying it to about the same point as the European model gets, from a weaker starting point in less time, because it moves it faster than the European model does. There's almost a day's difference between when they arrive in Mozambique. So you can see the GFS gets there around 6 days, hour 144, roughly. European model is still in the Mozambique Channel at day 7, 168 hours out. So, fair amount of uncertainty. We'll have to wait for greater details. Now, it is getting closer to landfall. You've got under 3 days for people in Madagascar, so you need to start preparing today. Follow local officials, Meteo Madagascar, local government agencies, and of course, Meteo France forecasts for the storm. You should expect strong damaging winds as it comes ashore, especially if you are in the eye wall. There will be the threat of storm surge along the coastal areas, but the coastal strip of Madagascar is quite narrow. It rises into the hills and mountains fairly quickly. The greater threat will be from flash flooding where that heavy rain occurs over the mountains. These storms are frequent in Madagascar. Unfortunately, the local residents have gotten used to them, especially after last year when a huge number of storms struck the island. Hopefully they are prepared from their experience with those storms and know what to do, but now is the time to start preparing if you are in particularly the eastern coast of Madagascar, around Toa Samina. That's all for today. I hope you're staying safe wherever you are, particularly in Madagascar.